Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today this video is going to be showing you in detail the best die cutting hack ever. Now, I am going to be using sentiments for this one. However, this works for any image, whether it be a sentiment or an image like a flower, a bird, a something, anything. Anything that you have the coordinating dies for, this is going to work beautifully. So I have the Waffle Flower Birthday Wishes stamp set here. Now, this is just because I make a lot of birthday cards, and so birthday sentiments are really, I use them a lot. But what I find with all of my stamps and dies that I am more likely to use them if they are ready to go. So this is what I do. I got asked about this a lot and, sort of how I go through the process of this. And this is what I do. Instead of sort of stamping them out individually and then putting centering the die around them and then running them through that way, this is what I do for bulk, beautiful and perfect. No mishaps, no missteps, no accidental, non-centered sentiments. So this is what you're going to do. I have some cardstock here. I like to do mine on 110 pound Frenchville brand paper, just a really good cardstock. I am just going to lay out all of the dies and die cut out the sentiments. Now I am going to put them with a somewhat a relatively even border around them. They don't have to be straight. They don't have to be in any order. They don't have to be specifically, you just want them a little gap in between so that you can, have a little bit of playroom. You'll see why in a little bit. I'm going to use some mint tape to hold all of these down just as I run them through my die cutting machine. We don't need to hold them in place permanently. You don't need to have them exactly like this every single time. That's also going to be not what we need to do for this one. I run these through my die cutting machine. I happen to have a Big Shot and that works perfectly like a dream. I actually don't need to run this back through twice, but just for the sake of the video. Now, this very first piece of cardstock here, we are going to take out all of the sentiments and just pop them all in a pile. Take all the dies off. We are completely done with those now. And I just take off all the piece of mint tape. If I can save them and reuse them, that's even better. I pop them on the top of my die cutting machine. And then once I have all of my dies and die cuts separated, keep this first sheet, like the first negatives, the first, scrap bit that you'd usually just throw out. Keep this piece because we are going to use this later on. But at the moment, we just want to get a whole lot of die cuts. So now I just pull out all my larger scraps of white cardstock and I am just going to die cut heaps. As many as I possibly think I can be bothered doing in one session. I just die cut and die cut and die cut. Fit as many on those pieces of paper, run them through your die cutting machine, and then run some more through. This is the reason that I have the bulk amounts that I do, because when I do it, I really want to get a good pile of them so I don't have to do it again for a good amount of time, hopefully. Then just pop them all out and then just keep going. We want to have a really good stash of them. Now, all of the leftover negatives from these ones, you don't have to keep these. You can put these as close together as you possibly want. We just want a really big pile of the die cuts ready to go. Now, as I said, this is not the only way to do it. This is more if you are doing, if you want a good stash of them in the back of your, like you have a favorite stamp set and you're going to reach for it often and you want to use them often, but sometimes the whole process just adds another step to stamp and die cut and line up and all those things. So this is what's good. Now we have the first negative that I told you about. Now this is one way to do it. I'm just letting you know there are a couple of ways and I definitely have a favorite. This is the first negative that we had, and I put a piece of copy paper underneath there. So that is what is sticking to my Altenew sticky grid. I put a piece of copy paper and then I have the negative grid that we had. Now you could take a stamp like this, pop one of the pieces back in and then stamp it and sort of hope that it's all nicely lined up. However, this is going to be a foolproof 100% perfect lining up method. So put all of your stamps anywhere on the page. They don't have to be even. They don't have to be in any particular order. They don't have to be, any specific way, but just make sure there's a little bit of space in between them. Space them out. As you can see, I have 8 or so different sentiments here and they're going across my page. I still have that scrap piece of paper, so it's just a piece of copy paper in there. Ink them up with any ink, don't have to be in perfect impression, and then stamp them down. Now this is the bit that takes a little minute of time, but it is well and truly worth it. I like to cut out each individual negative, I guess you would call it, from what we very first did, and that's why we leave a little bit of space around it so that we can cut them out without, fearing that we're going to cut into a different one. And then I line them up perfectly over the stamp that is on that scrap piece of paper in the background. So you line them up absolutely perfectly. Remember, you've got all your stamps on the left-hand side there on the door of your MISTI or your stamping platform, whatever you have. So they are going to stamp down in the same place that we originally had them, which is super helpful because remember now our outlines are all lined up perfectly. So then you pop in the blank pieces, the die cuts, and I have sorted these into each individual sentiment, and then you just pop them into place and then you ink up all of your stamps, whether it be your birds or your butterflies or your words or your flowers or whatever it is. Ink them all up with a nice good dose of ink, and then you are going to shut the door. And I use a little tool here to go over the top and just make sure I have really good coverage with all of my ink. But if not, just use your hand or even pull your sleeve down over your hand and rub over the plastic of your stamping platform. And then we have all of these sentiments ready to go. Now, because I am using some VersaFine Onyx black ink, which is a pigment ink, it's going to stay wet for just a little second longer. So I'm using some tweezers to pop all of these out just so I don't risk smudging them, and they will dry pretty quickly. Now, I just do this over and over and over again, and that's why this goes so quickly at this point, and you want to have heaps of die cuts ready to go. Now, you're going to see that pile above the stamping platform grow and grow and grow really, really quickly. This truly from here takes no time at all. Now, another question that I'm going to answer whilst I'm here, and I get asked all the time around if I use my stamps so many times like this, or if I'm going between different inks and things, how do I get my stamps looking so clean again? Well, there are lots of different products out there on the market, but I have found one and I stick with it. This is the Nuvo stamp cleaner, and I just use a microfiber cloth. This one happens to be the Simon Says stamp one, and I just do a squirt on the stamps, and then I just give it a little scrub around. Now, the sentiment stamps are very detailed, and there are lots of different cracks and crevices, but these just clean up beautifully. You can see between the left and the right hand side there, they almost look like brand new stamps again. I get off all of that black ink perfectly. Now, I probably should have shown you if I'd just done it with like a baby wipe or a wet wipe or just a dry plain cloth to show you what the difference is, but nonetheless. Now, if you want to switch colors and you think I want something different than just black for me is a very versatile sentiment color, and that's why I do most of them in black. But other than that, if I want different colors, I just do the same thing. I clean them off and then I stamp them in whatever different colors that I want. And then this is how I get the most use out of my stamp and die sets. When I go to the effort of buying the coordinating die, I want to make sure I get good value for money. So look at all these beautiful sentiments that I pop in the back of my packaging. Next time I reach for this stamp set, I am good to go. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comment section below, have you already been using this great hack? Other than that, thanks so much and I'll see you next time. Bye.